El siguiente programa es apto para todos, no contiene escenas de sexo ni de violencia. Los menores de edad deben estar acompañados de un adulto responsable.
How are you doing today? Are you ready to learn English with teacher Juan Pablo? Yes, you are. On the way to English. I hope that you are prepared to take notation in your classes, and now your knowledge is very good. Thank you very much to be in my classes. So, once again, we are here learning English on the way to English. Remember, last class we were talking about the farms. You remember the farm, right? Beautiful farms. You remember some of the pictures of the farm we have. But today we're going to continue talking about the farm. But first of all, I'm going to explain you something. Me gustaría explicarles algo. The objective of learning a language is not perfection. The objective of learning a language is communication. Communicate your thought. That is why we have to learn, or we should learn a language. Don't worry about making mistakes. No se preocupe de cometer errores. Just worry about communication, right? Communication. So the objective is communication. To convey your thoughts, your feelings in the language that you are learning. To convey your thoughts. Sus pensamientos. Your feelings. Sus sentimientos. That is the purpose of learning a language. The purpose is that you can converse, that you can use it in a way that the other person can understand what you're saying. So, you don't have to worry so fast, but you don't have to worry so slow. You know, languages have a rhythm. Los idiomas tienen un ritmo. You don't have to go very fast, but you don't have to be very slow either. So, consider that, and then you can get to a point that you can use a language and you are going to use all this lesson to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, or to describe your environment, to describe what you see, right? So, once again, welcome to my classes, and let's get to the lesson today. Today, I'm going to talk to you about very two important aspects of the language. Must be at the lesson. Types of farms and farmers' duty. Do you know what type of farms are there? ¿Qué clase de haciendas tenemos? ¿Qué clase de fincas? Okay, think for a while. Oh, now you know what type of farms. We begin with this kind of farms that everybody knows. This is the family farm, you know. The family farm here, we said in a family farm es la familia que tiene una hacienda, the family farms. So we have a question. Let me see, excuse me. I erase. So we have a very important question. The first one is, what does the farmers produce in a family farm? What does the farmer produce in a family farm? What could be the answer to that? You can see it here in the poster. You see that the farmer produces only enough food to feed the family. You see English and Spanish. The farmer produces only enough food to feed the family. That's that happens in a family farm. But remember, when we say enough, remember this pronunciation. So the answer to this question, you see that in the poster. I'm not going to write the answer. You have it there in the poster. Enough, remember, enough. Normally we pronounce GHF, we say enough, okay? Repeat, enough, enough. So the farmer produces enough food to feed the family. Okay, this is what we call the family farms. Now let's put it here, the family farm, right? You see here, this is the family farms. How you write that? And you also can see here the family font. But you put it here, the family font. I don't have here a picture of a family font, but I believe that this picture could be good for a family font, you know. There could be a family font. Because he only produced enough food for his family. He is not really selling produce. He just produced it for his family. So this could be a family font if we want to use this as a picture. So we put it here, right? And here also. Now we see, I'm going to have it again so you can learn it. He produces only enough food to feed the family. Thus is the activity in this, the activity of the farmers, right? In the family farms. But you see, this is, I see the font that most of you are very familiar with. And now I'm going to explain to you another font. We have the commercial font. So the question is, what is the question with this? What does the farmer produce in a commercial farm? So the question is, the second question is, what does, remember to pronounce does like does, right? What does the farmer produce in a commercial farm? If we go back to the poster, you're going to find the answer here. The commercial farm provides enough income for the family. They grow crops and they can raise animals. So we can see that a commercial farm provides income for the family, growing crops and raising animals. When I say provide income, that is the money, they use all what they produce in the farm, excuse me, to sell, just to provide income. When I say income, provide dinero para su familia, right? So let me see, this is the commercial farm here. As you see, commercial farms, and so the answer to this question could be this one. Listen, what does the farmer produce in a commercial farm? We can say that he produced food. He produced food to sell, feed the animals, and use in his home, right? This is the answer to this question. He produces food to sell, feed the animals, and use in his home. This is a commercial farm. Let's put it here, right? Then we go to the other type of farm. We're going to have the fish farm. We can also call the trout farm. Let me see the fish farm. When you go back to the picture, excuse me, to the poster, you see that the fish farm, in this case, we have also the trout farm. What happened in the trout? What happens here? It raises fish or trout in tanks or ponds, you know. As you see in Spanish, cría pescados sus truchas en tanques o lagos. I'm going to show you a picture of a trout farm, so you just can get familiar with the trout farm. Here we have, in this picture, we have a trout farm. In this tall farm, you see a big tank. You see the big tank where the farmer can raise the trout. We put it here, a trout farm, in here. The trout farm will be here. And then we have the picture of the trout farm. In Jardín, there are many trout farms. People go to the trout farms and they have a good time because they can fish and they can also eat the trout. So let's put it here, the trout farms. So if I need a question here, what could be the question here? The question is the same model. What does the farmer produce in a trout farm? What? Remember that normally we pronounce ow, we say trout, trout farm, right? So let's say here, the trout farm, we have it here. Okay. Now we have another kind of farm in English that some of you are familiar with that kind of trout. Some people, because in Jardín there are many dairy farms, or we can say also dairy plants. A dairy plant is, as you see in this picture, the other plant, here we have the dairy plant here. Dairy plant is la lechería. What happens in the dairy plant? The dairy plant, the farmer raises animal for milk, for cheese, and for yogurt, right? Mostly we can get in a dairy plant or in a dairy farm delicious milk, and you can get delicious yogurt also. They produce that kind of food, right? Now we have one of the most important farms that people like to visit here in Jardín is this kind of farm. This is what we call, but first of all, I would like to use something. This is to be a very big trout farm, right? It could be very big here. But we don't have this kind of dairy here in Jardín. No hay estas lecherías aquí. But in other countries, we can see here, there are many cows here because they are in a dairy plant. Or if you can usually say in a dairy farm. So let's put it here, the picture for this one. Now I want to talk about this farm. Everybody knows this kind of farm because you are very familiar with this farm. Typically they produce what we call, and I can show you the picture and you're going to tell me how you call it. This picture refers to what? You can tell me refer to what? Or any farm have this. What is this? How we can call this? This is a very similar picture. This one is a picture of a hen house. You see here you see the cocks and you see the hens. Also we have another picture. This is the king of the hen house. You see, this is the rooster. And we see this is another kind of bird. We call it a turkey. So how do you call this? We call this the poultry farm. You see here, the poultry farm. You see the poultry farm. Es la granja agrícola in Spanish. The farmer raises chickens and turkeys for meat. So we can say the same question here. What do the farmers produce in a poultry farm? He produces, as you say here, he grows the chickens and turkeys, whatever, turkeys for meat, and also the family raises chickens, and you can get the eggs. So let's put it here. This for them. And I'm going to show you what does the farmer produce. The farmer produces in a poultry farm, right? Oh, what does he raise? We can say also, what does he raise? We can say, if we don't want to say, what does the farmer produce? We can say, what does he raise? Right? What does he raise? And you say, he raises chickens, and he raises, in Spanish, levanta, cría, he raises chickens and turkeys for meat and eggs. What does he do in a poultry farm? So let's put it here, the poultry farm. Remember this one, the dairy farms with this one, the dairy farm. Here. And we have the poultry farm here, right? So consider the pronunciation. You have family farm, you have trout farms, you have poultry farms, you have dairy farms, or sometimes you can call it and you say dairy plant. A dairy plant is so big, right? And we have the commercial farms, right? So consider those kind of farms or those types of farms. There's another very familiar for most of us. This is one of the farms Hardin is plentiful with. These farms are very beautiful, really. We call it the coffee farm. Coffee farm is a farm everybody is familiar with. In a coffee farm, you just can have a pleasant time how they produce coffee. So, obviously that the question is, what does the farmer produce in a coffee farm? They produce, obviously, coffee. So this is the coffee farm. So everybody knows about coffee farms. Let's put it here, right? You just see, typically, the coffee farm is where most people go on tours. People come to Hardin and they go to the coffee farms to have tours, right? And then, what he does is that he grows coffee, right? The coffee, in a coffee farms, the farmer grows coffee. In Spanish, él levanta el café, cultiva el café. He grows coffee. Let's put it here, the coffee farm. And here, the coffee farm, right? What does the farmer produce in a coffee farm? So what does the farmer produce in a coffee farm? Could be the next question, right? You can say, produced in a coffee farm. Also, you can change the question, or you can change the verb. You can say, what does the farmer grow? Right? ¿Qué cultiva? ¿Qué produce? He grows coffee, right? He grows coffee. Only this one could be a separate lesson. This only be our topic for a lesson, este tipo de hacienda podría ser un tópico para una lección. We can have a lesson only talking about the coffee farms, and it could be 1 hour more, because there is so much that we can learn in a coffee farm, right? Then we have, finally, let me see. Remember, let's go back to the dairy farm, right? In the dairy farm, he raised cows for milk, cheese, and yogurt. He also raised goats. Sea, en Spanish, levanta las vacas para la leche, para queso, yogur, y también las cabras. Let's put it here in the dairy farm, so you know how to answer the question. What does the farmer raise in a dairy farm? He raises cows for milk, cheese, and yogurt. He also raises goats, right? And then, I'm going to show you also another picture, going back to the lesson, but using this picture, the poultry farm. But this is a very big poultry farm. You see? This is not this one, because they use the poultry farm to produce income, to get money, right? This is a poultry farm also. So let's put the picture to the poultry farm, right? Now we have one of the, I would say, one of the main attractions in Harbin. People just come to Harbin to visit this kind of farms. You know which one? Everybody knows that. This farm. We call it the sugar cane farm. Every person who visits Harbin would like to go to the sugar cane farm, lo que nosotros llamamos la molienda de la caña de azúcar. This is, we call it the sugar cane farm. Let's put it here. And how to write it? You have a sugar cane farm. Let's put it here. So you have time to take notation. So what does the question should be like this one? Let's say, what does the farmer produce, right? In a sugar cane farm. To be six, right? Of course, if something that they produce that everybody drink every day, what we call panela. In English we call it, he produces sugar cane blocks. You know, the sugar cane blocks is what we call it here in Spanish panela. You buy the panela by purse. You go to the grocery store and you say, please, can I have a pearl panela? And you say, can I have we call it sugar cane blocks. But he also produces molasses and bagasse. Molasses is like a syrup, and the bagasse is something they use as a fuel for the machines. So let's put it here, sugar cane blocks, and you can use the poster to see what they produce in this kind of farm, right? Let me go back again to the poultry farm, because I have here, in a child farm, what they raise. The farmer raises in a child farm, remember, he raises fish or trout in tanks or ponds. Let's put it here, so you get familiar with the vocabulary. So you can know what the farmer produces in every kind or in every type of farm. Let's put it here. And then we have the most important farms that we can get in this beautiful town. So let's go back again. In a family farm, you see, he produces enough food to feed the animal. Produces enough food to feed the animal. In a child farm, he raises fish or trout in tanks or ponds. In a commercial farm, he produces food to sell, feed the animals, and use in his home. In the dairy farm, he raises cows for milk, cheese, and yogurt. He also raises goats. In a poultry farm, he raises chickens and turkeys for meat and eggs. In a coffee farm, I will say, coffee farms is a topic for a lesson. We can talk too much about the coffee farms because even foreigners who come to Berlin, they tours in coffee farms. But for the time being, we say for the time being in English, excuse me, mostly we're using this expression for the time being. When we say for the time being, I refer por ahora. Por ahora, we know that in a coffee farm, the farmer grows coffee. So this is enough for you just to say to somebody what this farm is all about. Now, let's continue with the second part of the class.
On a family farm, he produces only enough food to feed the family. On a commercial farm, he produces food to sell, feed the animals, and use in his home. On a coffee farm, he grows coffee. On a sugarcane farm, he produces sugarcane blocks, molasses, and bagasse. On a dairy farm, he raises cows for milk, cheese, and yogurt. He also raises goats. On a trout farm, he raises fish or trout in tanks or ponds. On a poultry farm, he raises chickens and turkeys for meat and eggs.
All right, my friends, we continue with the class on the farm, right? Today, the last part of the class is going to be about the farmer's duties. I don't know, the farmer has lots of things to do. He has lots of things to do. Do you remember who's Old MacDonald? Old MacDonald has a farm, but he's in the past. Pero aquí está en el pasado, right? Old MacDonald had a farm, remember. So, we're going to talk about all kind of activities that Old MacDonald had to do on a farm. But first of all, a small correction. Normally we say, what's that the farmer produce on? I'm going to say on, right? Remember, on is the correct. What's that the farmer produce on? Right? What does the farmer produce on? And we say on is much better, right? Is the correct way to say what does the farmer produce on? Okay, excuse me, I'm going to erase here. And we'll continue with the topic today. So, the most important question is, what does he do on a farm? What does McDonald do on a farm? So the question is, what does he do on a farm? This is the question, right? He is going to be Old MacDonald, right? Old MacDonald has lots of things to do. When I say lots of things in English, lots of things, I say muchas. Muchas cosas. We don't imagine. He has to get up too early in the morning and he has to go to bed about 6 or 7 and he's very tired. Oh, poor MacDonald. So let's go to the topic. The question is, what does he do? So you see here that a farmer has to be dedicated to his classes. Has to be too dedicated to his farm. So Old MacDonald is going to do this, or he does this, right? First of all, poor MacDonald has lots to do. Poor MacDonald, he works from dawn to dusk. I mean, he works from 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. Oh, puro MacDonald. Trabaja del amanecer al atardecer. Also, lots of things for puro MacDonald. He also, most of the time, he has to do this. He plants crops. He plants crops. Let's put it here. Hace, cultiva sus cosechas. Puro MacDonald. Let's put it here. Another word for his activities, harvests. Recoge. He harvests crops. Recoge sus cosechas, puro MacDonald. Let's put it here. This is the story of puro MacDonald. Also, what he has to do, he grows vegetable, beans, tomatoes, and so on. He grows vegetables, beans, tomatoes, and so on. Let's put it here, Old MacDonald. Also, he fertilizes his crops. He fertilizes his crops con nada. Él abona todas sus cosechas, las abona. He fertilizes his crops and land. Put Old MacDonald. Put it here again. He irrigates. He irrigates his crops. He waters his crops. Old MacDonald has to irrigate his crops. So puro MacDonald irrigates his crops. Let's put it here. Puro MacDonald has a lot to do in his farm, on his farm. Also, he runs his farms because poor MacDonald is very careful. So he runs his farms with careful planning. He's a very careful man. He has to be thinking about what he's going to do with his farm. But poor MacDonald, as you see, he runs his farms with careful planning. When you say runs, in Spanish we say maneja. Maneja su finca, right? Administra su finca. It's the way we say in English, right? It's not that he's running. No, he's not running because he's bold. No, maneja, administra su finca. In English we say he runs his farm. Also, he keeps an eye on pests, you know. He has keeping an eye on pests. There are many pests. So, McDonald tiene que vigilar de que no haya pestes. So, he keeps his eyes on pets. Alright? Keeps an eye on pets. McDonald has to do a lot of, poor McDonald has to do a lot of things. Let's continue. Some of the things that he does in his farm is that he produces dairy products. He produces dairy products. Let's put it here. O sea, produce artículos de lechería. He produces dairy products, right? Let's put it McDonald here. Also, he has to be looking all the time at the weather to see what's going on with his crops. Oh, he keeps an eye on the weather. McDonald all the time is looking at his farm, looking at the weather, whether or not it's going to rain or not. So he is all the time keeping an eye on the weather. Let's put it here. Poor McDonald has to do lots of things. He feeds his animal. All the time he has to do this. He feeds his animal. Let's put it here. He melts his cows. Ordeña sus vacas. He melts his cows. Let's put it here. Also, as I said, he harvests his crops. He harvests his crops. When I said he harvests, él coge todas las cosechas. He harvests his crops. Let's put it here. His crops. On McDonald, some of his activities is that he raises poultry, as you see in the picture. What he does here? What does he does here? On McDonald raises poultry. Let's put on McDonald raises poultry. We can put it here also. After all this, he has to take all his crops and he loads his crops onto trucks. He loads his trucks onto trucks. Él carga todas sus cosechas por el McDonald to the trucks to take it to the market. So he loads his crops. He loads his crops onto trucks. Let's put it here, right? And finally, I believe that most important is part of his activities on his farm is that on McDonald he transports his crops to market. Here is when poor McDonald can get some money after doing all this. Finally, he transports his crops to market. Let's put it here. And then another one, he transports all his crops to market, right? Transport all his crops to market. That is all he has to do. But just say now, you can ask now, okay, what are the picture? We don't have any picture here. Say, I have some picture to explain this. This one. In this picture, we can say that he melts his cow. Well, let's look here where he melts his cow. We have melt his cow, so we have this picture here, and we have he melts his cows. We have another picture here. He raises pigs. He raises pigs. So McDonald also raises pigs. And you see here, you see poor McDonald. What does he do here? ¿Qué hace aquí? He raises pig. So let's put here poor McDonald here. He raises pig in this picture. Right? Also, in this picture we said that he fertilizes his crops. Of course, this is not all McDonald, but it's somebody who fertilizes his crops. As you say, él abona sus cosechas. Let's put it here, right? Let's go here. Then we see the final product. He grows fruit. Old MacDonald grows fruit. We have some of the fruit that he grows. Beautiful, delicious fruit. Let's put the picture here. Then he harvests his crops. Now this person is harvesting corn crops, the corn. He harvests the crops. Let's put it here, right? And this big one, this could be the Colombian Old MacDonald. The Old MacDonald tends his nursery. He tends his nursery, or he tends his vegetable nursery, his plantation, his plant nursery. He has a nursery on his farm. So Old MacDonald tends his nursery. Or also he could be tends his orchard. He has an orchard. Let's put it here. And this picture, finally, Old MacDonald feeds his animal. As you see, this little girl feeds his animal. He is feeding here the goat, and he is feeding here the poultry, right? He feeds his animal. You can list this one when we say he feeds his animal. You have it here. Feeds. He feeds his animal. And finally, what the poor MacDonald does is that he transports his crop to the market. Imagine that, Old MacDonald transporting all this. So he transports all his crops to the market, whatever crops he has produced. So this is the final activity. So my friends, you see lots of activities that poor Old MacDonald has to do. When he goes to bed, he has to be very, very tired. Thank you, my friend, for coming to my classes. Bye.
The farmer's duties. He gets up very early. He works from dawn to dusk. He also plants crops. He harvests crops. He grows vegetables, beans, tomatoes, etc. He fertilizes his crops and land. He raises poultry. He irrigates his crops. He runs his farm with careful planning. He keeps an eye on the pests. He produces dairy products. He keeps an eye on the weather. He loads his crops onto trucks. He transports his crops to the market. He milks his cows. He feeds his animals.